All right. We'll call the council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Alms.
Here.
DeZiel. Here. Weber.
Here.
Bruck.
Here.
Hall. Here.
All right, we're going to move right into presentations. I do want to add that there will be another presentation that was requested by Councilmember Weber. That will be item B, and we'll move the item B down to item C. Aaron.
Gotcha. So we have a proclamation for Easton Schultz. Whereas Easton Schultz grew up in Hudson and graduated from Hudson High School as an honor student, and whereas Easton was a member of the 2021 state championship hockey team, as well as volunteering for many causes, including coaching the Bridge adapted floor hockey team, helping with the Special Olympics, and founding the Hudson Special Hockey Program. And whereas Easton secured a donation of 25 brand new sets of hockey equipment from the National Hockey League Players Association Goals and Dreams Foundation for the Hudson Special Hockey Program worth $20,000. And whereas with this donation, even more kids of all abilities will be given the opportunity to play hockey in our community. And whereas Easton's volunteer work exemplifies living by the golden rule, and now therefore, on behalf of Mayor Rich O'Connor, Mayor of the City of Hudson, do hereby thank Easton Schultz for all he has done for our community and encourage others to follow this young man's example.
Excellent. Easton, have anything to say?
Sure. All right. I just want to say thank you to the City of Hudson and the Hudson Hockey Association for all the outstanding support from everyone. The community's been awesome. I couldn't have done it without all the support of Hudson. I mean, I grew up here. I've played hockey here my whole life. It's been a pleasure being able to give back to a community that often is overlooked in all aspects of life. And it's good to see that those kids are able to play things that I got to play growing up. And I think it was good for me, very humbling for me, and I got to grow in a way that I wouldn't have experienced without Hudson Special Hockey. So, thank you.
Thank you, Easton. Easton, if you would, I have a Hudson pin here for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Meeting was held just in time. Easton is on his way down to school tomorrow, starts his college career. And I've got, where are you headed again?
I'm going to Iowa State.
Oh, man. I did have the pleasure and opportunity to attend the celebration of this event over at the hockey arena, and it was a couple weeks ago, and it's quite a program and a tremendous testament to the will and motivation of Easton. It's quite a program, and he's been working on this for a few years, and it's great for the kids of all abilities to be able to play hockey. And they're coming from pretty much everywhere, right? I mean, it's
all over, Twin Cities, East, everywhere.
Yeah.
All over the area.
Excellent. Well, again, well done, and thank you so much for adding this to our community, Easton. Thank you. All right, Jim.
Thank you. This weekend, there was a celebration of the Lift and Loop Trail at Stillwater Holton, 2 years late. Floods and COVID kind of got in the way. But River Valley Trails and Hudson Hospital put on a bike rodeo. We do that annually, and we did that at Holton School. But I had to recognize the Officer Mac Parsons, who's our school liaison, one of our school liaison officers, and 3 of his Explorer Scouts, Raymond Austin, Kai Krogman, and Brandon Riley. And they ran it for us. I mean, they just took, if there wasn't anything going on, they found something to do. And they kept it going and kept it moving, kept the kids energized. So it was just a pleasure to work with them.
Excellent. Is that it? Did you have names? Or?
Well, yeah, Raymond Austin, Kai Krogman, and Brandon Riley.
Yeah.
or the 3 scouts.
Okay, okay.
It also could include Mike Mraz and the mayor for their participation in the rest stop that the city of Hudson and the local Rotary clubs put on for the bike ride that Sunshine Rotary had yesterday. They had 5 different rides, 500 riders. So, and one route came through here, but they put that together, made that happen for us. So.
Excellent, well done, Jim. I know you and Marion were very much involved in that, and wouldn't have happened here, the rest stop for sure, without your involvement. And you did a good job with that too.
Thank you.
And the loop and trail.
Yeah, and it was, yeah, I like to say, Marion gave me the idea, so.
All right, excellent, thank you. Next up, Wisconsin Department of Transportation presentation of proposed 2022 Carmichael Road Bridge over Interstate 94 maintenance project. Dean?
All right, I just wanted to quick introduce our Wisconsin Department of Transportation folks, which hopefully are on Zoom, although I can't confirm that, I guess. So I believe we have tonight with us Stacy Lambell, Nicole Pesuelo, and Paul Conlon, representing WisDOT's both their project planning and construction divisions. So I'm not sure who's going to take it away, and hopefully you're there, but to talk about the 2022 proposed bridge maintenance project for Carmichael Road over I-94.
Could I share my screen?
Yep, hold on one sec. All right, give her a try.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Stacy Lambell, project manager for DOT. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I would just like to walk you through this staging scenario that we have here. So the scope of the project is for the Carmichael Bridge is to replace the joints at each end of the bridge and to put a polymer overlay on the deck and then replace the approach slabs, which are the concrete slabs at each end of the deck. This is just a maintenance project I don't know if many of you drive over this bridge right now, you'll see that there's some asphalt patching on each end of the deck, and it's just a little rehab that we have to do periodically. So we had met with you, I think we were with the council, weren't we, Dean, in January?
Yes.
Okay. We had shown you a 1-lane open to traffic scenario, and we kind of got the impression that you would like to see 2 lanes. So here's our 2-lane scenario. And what we would have to do on this one for the first stage here on these darker hashed areas is we would be removing some of the median area to allow for 2 lanes. This is just a prep stage. We have 2 lanes shown here on northbound going through and 2 lanes on southbound. The closure that would happen would be here on Crestview. The inside left turn lane would be closed for this the first stage here. Where's a good place to, how do I get rid of this bar at the bottom? Okay. So the next stage then we would go into, okay, sorry, back up the bus here. So during this stage here where we're doing these removals, we would also do the bridge work on this median northbound 2 lanes here. So this work would get done, replace the joints at each end and the pavements on each end. So the next stage then would be to shift the traffic over to the area that we've already done and to do the outside 2 northbound lanes of the bridge. And then same thing, this Crestview inside lane would be closed for this stage. The next stage then, we would be moving, we would have the 2 northbound lanes here through here and a turn lane. And then one of the southbound lanes would come over to that 4th northbound. So it would come over to the northbound side and then go back over to the southbound side before the lights. And then the other southbound lane would come straight through. And we would then do the work on the outside of the southbound bridge. Same thing, Crestview Lane is still closed through this stage. The next stage then would be, all the traffic would be in the same scenario. It would just be that we would move, when we finish this outside work, we would move the pedestrians onto the deck while we did the joint on the sidewalk. So then this traffic would be, so pedestrians would be back on the sidewalk. The southbound lane would be moved to the outside. Still have this northbound lane coming through, this other southbound lane coming through on the northbound. And then we'd finish up with doing the replacement on the median southbound lanes. And then last would be restoration. Put the median back, put this median island up here back. So that's the staging that we came up with. The 2-lane alternative would take a few more days than the 1-lane alternative, but it maintains the 2 lanes of traffic and Nicole, you're more familiar with the level of services. I don't know if you can speak to that, but it functions. Did anybody have any questions?
Anybody?
All right, so I think what we should probably explain from the staff side is that when this was presented last time, obviously there were some concerns raised about the traffic backups, the need to do this versus replace exit 2, things like that. So what we wanted to make sure that we kind of address with this is one, that WSDOT did go back and look at some options in that to, maybe help with the traffic backups, to go to the 2-lane queues, things like that. The other part too is that, which they haven't said, but I want to make sure we stress, is that WSDOT has said that by doing this, in no way delays or potentially delays any sort of expansion to exit 2. It's a rehab sort of project. If and when they approve any sort of expansion, it would not be a full replacement. They would be adding decks and area to the bridge. So it's still in our best interest to maintain this section, even for future expansion later, which is, we all know what we want ultimately, but that's not what's in the schedule right now. And staff is obviously working with WSDOT to try to get that issue resolved. But at least for right now, we've been assured that by doing this does not in any way affect the ability to do an expansion when we can get that approved, because that expansion is going to really not be a full replacement. It's going to be adding deck area. So I wanted to make sure we kind of got those items out there for the conversation. And then the next part is Dean sent an email out to the council today, just kind of talking about some of his concerns with the numbers that WISDOT was using and looking at their traffic and their queuing times and things like that, in that it's going to be probably a fairly long backup in this area, in that people are going to start really avoiding it a lot when they realize how long the backups are going to actually be with the amount of traffic we have now versus the numbers that were used to do some of this analysis. So with that, we have the two options, and then, I don't know, Stacy, could you click on that staging comparison again for me, just so we can take a look at that? So when you look at the two options, if we keep one lane, obviously they can do work quicker, so it's about a 41-day project. If we go to 2 lanes, it adds another 74 days, so it adds another, basically month or so to the project by leaving it a 2-lane alternative, because clearly they're not working on as many lanes at once. Now, the other option that's not shown here, but that Dean brought up in his email, is the option of fully closing the bridge to all traffic and just doing a full detour. If we did that, the project, I think Dean's estimate, and WISDOT, please correct me if I'm wrong, Dean thought that maybe that would reduce the project down to maybe 25 to 30 days instead of the 41 if we fully closed it. And if we did that, what we would do is work with WISDOT on doing that closure at the same time that we need to do work on the Carmichael and Hillcrest intersection for the Hudson Physicians Project, to just knock out all that work at once while everything's closed up. So that's a third option that we wanted to present to the council, is being able to do a full closure with a full detour, knock the time down to basically a month, or hopefully less than that, 25 days maybe even, and be able to take care of this project in the Hillcrest one. So on the WISDOT side, if I said something wrong there, somebody please jump in and correct any of that. Or Dean, if I missed something too.
Nope, that sounds right. And I know that, Dean and I had a long talk about different scenarios here today, and he knows our timeline on, we have a November 1st PS&E with a February lot, so.
Yep. And one thing to stress too is that this is not a city project. We aren't paying anything for it. It has direct impact on our citizens and our businesses, of course, but this is not technically our project. So there's not an actual decision the council needs to make, because we don't get to make the decision, but WISDOT would like to hear the council's opinion on which option that they should go with, so they can take that into account when they decide, what they're going to do. So that's what we're looking for tonight. It's not really an actual action, but I think if the council did take action as far as saying we would recommend this alternative, that's what WISDOT's looking for, so they can take that into account when they make their final decision.
Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. First of all, it says not including the polymer overlay. How long does it take to spread the polymer and have it cure?
So that would be done under nighttime lane closures. So that would be done during off-peak hours, which is why we didn't include it here. This is just the setups that'll have to happen at the beginning and then extend for 24 hours a day that we can't take down every night. And a polymer overlay, we can get that done in a week.
How long does it take to cure for each lane?
It's an all-night thing. It has to be done during warmer temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember offhand. It's done by a pull test where you glue this puck to the deck, and it has to develop the strength. And I don't know, 8. I can't really say without.
I guess my real question is, how long does the lane have to be
But
closed?
it would be done in about a lane at a time, and it would be an 8-hour deal, sorry.
Oh, okay, so it's less than 24 hours that lane would be closed.
No. off-peak lane closures at night.
So when would the lane reopen after being
Sure. This is
polymer
Paul
coated?
Conlon with the Wisconsin DOT. So what we would propose doing while we put the polymer overlay down is we would close one lane starting sometime after the afternoon rush hour. We would go in, we would prep the surface, we would put the epoxy down, put the chips inlays, and then it goes through its curing process. We clean it, and we would have it all ready to go by the next morning rush. So we would only have it closed from sometime in the evening and then have it open prior to the next morning. So it'd be a nighttime operation to minimize traffic impacts.
Okay, thank you. And then, all right, for each of these different alternatives, when do you propose actually doing what months? You know, what would be the start and end dates for each of them?
So,
Did you catch the question?
yeah,
I think the question was, when do we propose to do this?
Yes.
Right.
During the construction season in 2022? Okay.
you're,
Yeah, Stacy or Nicole, I don't know when we intended. Is there a preferred time?
They marked
the-
April through August on our packet.
Right, but if we had, all right, so if we did the complete closure of the bridge and we needed approximately 30 days, what would be the optimum time to have that bridge closed? Randy, do you have a, I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, you're in the hotel business, you'd know when.
There's
the
no good time.
There's no good time, yeah.
Well, doesn't part of it depend on the Hagan Street Bridge too? Because we're talking about summer of 2022, and I don't think we want both bridges going at the same time.
No.
So I think we'd have to schedule, it doesn't sound like we have a lot of control over this one, right? This, it's a WISDOT project.
Yes,
So it almost sounds like WISDOT's gonna have to figure out the timetable, and then we're gonna have to revisit the Hagan Street to figure out.
they'll have
when
to
we
tell
can do
us, and then,
that. Yeah.
and Hudson Physicians will have to be prepared to do their work at the same time.
Yeah. I guess my only 2 cents is that EMS and fire, I think, you know, it might be important to keep one lane open because you've got EMS kind of coming out of the hospital. I know it's gonna be another 15 days or something, but I think you want to keep maybe at least one lane open. One lane both ways, sorry, for emergencies and things like that, so.
Any thoughts from DOT? Can you hear me? You guys still on?
The question from the mayor for the DOT was just, did you have any thoughts on your side as far as a full closure with emergency access routes and, you know, things like that for police, fire, ambulance, that sort of thing? Is that something would you want to stay away from, or is that?
A full closure with an allowance for EMS? That might be difficult. We'd have to work through all of the details to see what's possible. I mean, anytime we try to have a portion of the lane or a portion of the bridge available in a short amount of time, it's an area that we can't prep for construction. So we're not going to be able to compress the schedule as much if, say, we have to open it up within 5 minutes.
Gotcha. That makes sense, and we actually, and we don't know for sure because we just kind of had the conversations about the full closure. We would have to have that conversation with EMS and fire and everything to see. But I think the council also needs to just decide, is a full closure even something we want to see? I mean, we'd be talking about saving 11 to 15 days on the total project time. So I mean, it is, basically a couple weeks shaved off there, but is that worth it to have it fully closed for that period of time?
For public safety reasons, we can't close it permanently. I think that we would be jeopardizing the accidents that seem to always happen down Carmichael to the south. And we're gonna stop the response time of our fire department.
Yeah.
So I don't think closing is an option.
To the DOT, I know our role right now is advise, but had you guys taken into consideration emergency vehicles in your discussions about the options?
So DOT, the question was, is in you're looking at the options, whether 1 lane or 2 lane, or potentially the full closure, did you take into account emergency vehicles and that, that is a main route for them to get back and forth across the freeway? Is that part of your considerations when you look at the 1 or 2 lane alternatives or the closure?
Well, this is Nicole Pasquello. I'm the supervisor for the project. So regardless if we have 1 lane in each direction or 2 lanes in each direction, we're still going to have signals operating on that structure. So emergency vehicles would still be able to get through, essentially.
Will it be any easier, better, if they're 2 lane?
I would say that the 2 lane alternative would be easier. You do have obviously a longer span of time to get the work done. With the 2 lane alternative, we also are not sure that we'd be able to do that polymer overlay in the same season, just because polymer overlays generally have to be done in the warmer months. So we're talking June, July, August timeframe. It's the warmth, it's the moisture levels as well. So if we do the 2 lane alternative, it's quite likely, if the contractor isn't able to get an early start, that we may not be able to do the polymer overlay in the same year. So it might get delayed until the following year. It just depends on how the weather turns out and when the contractor is able to get started. So we have that. And the additional cost for the 2 lane alternative is generally because we have to do some shifting of signals in order to get that work done, and we have additional traffic control and obviously longer time being out there. I'm trying to think of what else. We had also given you guys a comparison on having 1 lane in each direction versus 2 lanes in each direction. It shows kind of the level of service, so the delays, how long the queues are, so how far back traffic would back up in those different scenarios during a PM high peak where you technically have the highest amount of traffic. And obviously the 1 lane in each direction is going to have some higher queues, and when we say level of service, we have a grading system from A to F. And right now, I think everybody that lives over there probably knows that area is busy and it isn't operating at a level of service A anywhere, I don't think. So you're already down on the lower levels of service. The 1 lane in each direction, obviously, there are definitely movements that put you down into the E's and F's, so it's not desirable. The 2 lanes in each direction, you get into some D's and E's, but not really achieving those F's. So there are some benefits as far as getting traffic through a little bit better and not having as much of a backup in the 2 lanes in each direction. So I guess it's all a matter of trying to decide whether it's more important to shrink down the time frame of the project and deal with a little bit more backups, or stretch it out a little longer, pay a little bit more, and be able to get more cars through. So, and obviously closing the bridge would be ideal for a contractor to be able to get in there and get the work done. But yeah, not ideal for emergency vehicles, businesses. I mean, we've had lots of struggles over the years when we close things down with some of the bigger businesses, and it's just it's not a fight that we're always willing to fight if we don't have to. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why we didn't look at it as a state. But yeah.
Matt, I don't know how you guys all feel. I guess I would lean toward the one lane and cutting that extra month down, but allowing the one lane for businesses, for emergency vehicles, and just trying to get it down. Part of why I'm saying that is that if it goes like the full 74 days or all summer, I think we're then endangering the repairs on the Hagan Street Bridge. And so, we can't be, I think, doing both bridges at the same time. We gotta do one, we gotta turn around, pivot, and work on the other. So I think the one lane just to get it down to that 41 days or so. So that was just my thought.
Is it realistic, the Hagen happening in 2022?
Well, that's what Strand, that was the proposal. That's what they're looking at. Yeah. It doesn't mean we have to do it.
It'll be in front of the council. I mean, we'll have the planning done, you know, the actual pulling the trigger, and if we want to do it next year or not, that's going to be a council decision, you know, as we take a look at it, and are we ready for it? Can we afford it? You know, that sort of thing. So I can't say for sure, but technically, you know, yes, it could happen.
And I think if you go to one lane each way, people are automatically gonna self-regulate, and they're gonna start using the Hagan Street Bridge more as those things back up. They're just gonna get in the habit of doing that, so. And
The
I think
people
the
who know
shorter
Hudson
that is,
will
the
do
better,
that.
so, you know.
Yeah, the regulars, but the visitors will not be able to do that. So, unless we direct them somehow. I think the one lane opening is dangerous for us from a emergency service viewpoint. You get one lane on there, it is going to be hard for anybody to clear. You can't get out of the way. So it's going to take a miracle of light management to make that happen, and I have strong doubts about that.
Because it would be lined up. People are gonna be backed up. How is our apparatus supposed to get through?
Right, you know, they're going to be wrapped around the curve, they're blocking all the lanes.
So
It's going to be,
sacrifice emergency service for a delay or a lengthening of a project. I'd err on the caution of 2 lanes for emergency vehicles.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, excuse me, in response to the Hagan Street Bridge project thing. Excuse me, the proposal for the design services from Strand did have in there construction in 22, but I think because we don't have funding identified at this point in time, it probably will not have construction in 22, especially since, you know, we'll have to somehow magically appear, you know, money in 22 to get construction going on that bridge for whatever our portion of the project is. So I would venture to guess that the Hagan Street Bridge wouldn't have construction done in 22 for whatever that's worth for this discussion.
Anybody else?
And I would lean more towards the 2-lane, just for this, everything that, you know, the safety piece, just the movement of traffic already as is difficult, right? Has there ever been any discussion from the DOT about slip ramps?
Let's avoid mixing too many things into this one.
Very good, very good.
All
But
right,
I think they're
anybody else?
probably all in favor of another slip ramp on the other side, I guess.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm good with that.
All right, thank you all very much for the presentation. Dean, DOT, thank you. Move on, next
Hey,
is,
was there a consensus for I'm sorry, I missed it though. Was there a consensus for the 2-lane option?
was that what you were looking for, a consensus here, Aaron?
I would like a consensus to try to give WISDOT some direction,
All
yes.
right.
Sorry about that, I should have made that clear up front.
Yeah, okay.
I would
I'm-
say there's a consensus.
I would prefer two lane.
Yeah,
Okay, so 2-lane is a consensus.
yeah. You
All
good?
right, WISDOT, thank you, you got that?
Well,
All right.
yes,
Okay.
and thank you for your assistance in the matter.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public comments. This is an opportunity for people to comment on issues that you may have with the city, things that you'd like to see done, whatever. Keep in mind that we do not allow comments during this portion of the agenda for things that are on the agenda. And for those that are commenting, please keep your comments brief and please try not to be repetitive. So, is there anybody that has a comment? Anybody with a comment? Anybody with a comment? All right, we'll close that portion of the agenda. Consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from the August 2nd, 2021 regular council meeting. Approve council claims in the amount of $500,026.25. Approve the Carmichael Ridge Block Party September 5th, 2021. Approve the Gray Street Block Party. Approve an easement agreement for Sarah Marshall at 36 Bristol Court. Approve final development plans for Bella Rose Apartments at 690 Elizabeth Way, Hearth Development. Approve the Croy Cross Cycle Race in Grandview Park. Discuss an possible action on assistant building inspector and building inspector salary schedule changes. Approve the purchase of 4 speed humps for speed control on Chestnut Drive and change of a speed limit at Chestnut Drive north of Ash Drive to 25 miles per hour. Approve selection of Strand Associates for preliminary and final design services for replacement of Hagan Street Bridge and intersection of 11th Street and Cooley Road.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Alms?
Yes.
DeZiel?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Brook?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved. Consent agenda is approved. Discussion and possible action on the extension of the Class B liquor and Class B beer license to 715 LLC, doing business as Omerta at 523 2nd Street.
So with this in the packet, I sent, there's a timeline in there for this liquor license. It was extended back in April for an August 1st deadline. That has come and gone, and the startup for business has not happened yet. And talking to the building inspector, there's still inspections that need to be done, and thinking it possibly mid-September before this. So it's the council's discussion of how to go forward to allow him to keep this liquor license or have it come back. So.
Have there been any?
And one thing if I can jump in after Becky quick, is just that, obviously this has come up before. There was delays related to COVID. I mean, it was not, obviously the last year or so was not a great time to try to open a new restaurant. So I can fully understand those delays of what occurred. And at this point now, according to our building inspector, they are making a lot of progress. I mean, the work is actually, it's back up and running, they're working. And if they continue to do so, they should be done within the next month. So, at this point, it is up to the council. It's a council decision of whether to give an extension or not. But I would recommend, if we do give the extension, that I would give it probably through the end of October. Let's give them enough time to get the building work done. As we all know, with construction projects, there can be unforeseen delays and things like that. But, at this point, we are seeing progress now. The work is being done. Like I said, this is a council decision on whether to pull this back or not. But at this point, because the work is being done, I would recommend that we grant the extension. We're seeing progress now. We're seeing work happen. It's been a very unusual year and a half. So it would be, I don't have a lot of concerns at this point now, because there is work happening and it looks like they're progressing to at least mid-September being done with that and ready to go.
I'll move to extend to November 1st, but I do have a question.
I'll second.
Is there any applications pending?
Physically, no questions have arisen. I have had 3 people inquire about this specific liquor license and the status of it. So they're waiting to see what comes out of tonight.
Okay.
But this is the one that Paul Rohde spent a lot of money on buying it from the,
It's back, he applied for this back in June of 2019. And so there's been two extensions already, and minus the year of COVID. So, but I have 3 inquiries depending on what tonight
Well, and our population has changed, or is going to
So the
change.
preliminary numbers are in, and we're figuring out the quota for that as well, right, currently.
All right.
So I don't know the status of that
Okay.
as of yet.
We should probably get another one, as our assumption.
Right.
Is Paul here tonight at all? No.
Paul, are you available tonight?
No.
Anybody representing Paul? No? All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on ordinance 16-21 massage businesses.
This came out of public safety in regards to the massage business that we have in town. There's some issues that have been going on with certain ones, so we had to put some teeth into our ordinance for our police department to back it up and actually deal with it. Did I say that good enough, Jeff?
Yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So I'll move that we, suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion and second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Morissette,
Yes.
Alms,
Yes.
DeZiel,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Brook,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion's approved. Rules are suspended.
Move to adopt 16-21.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion, possible action on ordinance 15-21, updating the city's truck route ordinance.
All right, thank you, council. So this is a proposal to update the truck route ordinance, which hasn't been updated since the 80s, and it's gone through both Public Works Committee and Public Safety Committee for approval. Essentially, the current truck route ordinance, as it stands right now, is a combination of unenforceable and outdated, as I said. There are certain streets that since the 80s have been built that make sense for having trucks on them, like, say, Hanley Road and Carmichael Road. There's, an industrial park that's been built since then. There's all sorts of stuff that's changed since the 80s. The other thing is that the current code classifies trucks just based on their weight, and so, which sounds great, but in reality, a police officer is not going to know how much a truck weighs just by looking at it, and they're not going to have a scale in their trunk to weigh a truck. So the proposal is to change the definition of a truck to be more of a classification-based system. And so in your packet, you see the FHWA classifies vehicles into 13 different categories. So we would say categories, I believe, 6 to 13 are what we would classify as trucks. And then also to revise essentially the truck routes themselves that are in the ordinance to open up essentially the industrial areas or the commercial areas that make sense for trucks, and also to keep trucks out of our residential areas where they don't belong. So, and so there were a few comments that came through the committee system. One was to remove St. Croix Street and Bear Drive. That was from Public Works, and we did that. The second one from Public Safety Committee was that to revise the language to essentially allow for residential construction vehicles to use non-truck routes for residential construction activities, and we did modify that as well.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Move to suspend the rules?
Second.
Motion is second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Morissette,
Yes.
Alms,
Yes.
DeZiel,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Brook,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Rules are suspended.
Move to adopt ordinance 15-21.
Second.
Got a motion and second to adopt. Discussion?
Yeah, I want to say that I got a call from a constituent. It was right after COVID hit. It was probably May of a year ago. And this was a constituent that had worked on the 1980s version. And so I took the new version over to her house this week and had her look this over. And she was really pleased with the changes, and she wants to make sure, obviously, that large trucks aren't going through residential areas, concerned about safety with children, concerned about the wear and tear on city streets, safety with bicycles, et cetera. So I just want to credit her. It's a citizen, I think, that reached out and made a really big difference, and it has taken us some time, which I totally understand, to revamp the ordinance, but I like it. I think it meets the needs of the community, both in terms of where trucks can be, and it has some flexibility, and it's also more enforceable, because I know the Hudson PD, the old one, I don't think was even enforceable, how it was written. So I like the collaboration and the different committees that have worked on it. So I hope we can support this and kind of make sure it works for everybody, so.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on temporary extension of work hours for Highway 35 project for work between Division Street and Lake Malalu.
All right, so, excuse me, the contractor for the Highway 35 project has requested an extension of work hours for the section between Division Street and Lake Malalu, and this would just be from Monday, August 23rd to Friday, September 3rd for the closure period for work in the intersections at Division Street and North Street and Hudson. The reason for the work hour extensions is that essentially the contractor wants to minimize the amount of time that the intersections are closed, which is very understandable in my mind, and also account for if there's something that comes up, you know, say it rains for an hour, they can let it dry out, and essentially gives them more wiggle room to be able to complete the work in the closure period specified. And as staff, we understand that people do live near that area, and there would be a little bit more of an inconvenience, but we feel that if you were supporting this work hour extension for that very specific purpose and for that specific time frame.
I'll move we approve it till 9 PM. On condition, if you get a complaint, you go back to the original.
One complaint?
Well, series of complaints. Should be one. I mean, everybody should be heard. I don't know.
I guess what you could say is that if staff receives complaints that we feel are, you know, legitimately, you know, there's some legitimate issues going on that we have the authority then to revoke the extension.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Second that.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's
Thank you.
approved. Discussion and possible action on a conditional use permit application to operate a multi-use medical office facility in a B2 General Business District at 2651 Hillcrest Drive, Hudson Physicians, Inc.
Thank you. Excuse me as I sort through my packet of like 8 different items I have on the agenda tonight. But the next 3 items are pertaining to the Hudson Physicians project on the east side of Carmichael, right across from the Hillcrest Drive intersection. This first one is specific to the use. Conditional use permits, as you remember, go to the Plan Commission for their public hearing, which we had. Hudson Physicians did have a neighborhood meeting, met with some of the neighboring residences that had some concerns specific to buffering, landscaping, just making sure that they were going to be good neighbors for the project. And it appears, and I believe that they've addressed those concerns to this point. And then the second item that you're going to talk about will be the final plat, which will actually subdivide the property into separate lots. So the main lot, lot 1, would be the actual building. You'd have a lot 2, which is another buildable lot, but wouldn't be built on. You'd have the right-of-way for the Hillcrest Drive extension, as well as an outlot for stormwater retention facilities. And then the third item, third and final, would be specific to the development plans or the actual facility itself and the parking and the landscaping and all those things involved. So with that, I know it's a lot. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. 3-story medical office complex, outpatient services. I think Matt Brandt with Hudson Physicians is here, if you have any questions for him. Otherwise, I am here.
I'll move to approve the conditional use permit.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on Resolution 15-21, approving the final plat for Hudson Physicians at 2651 Hillcrest Drive, Hudson Physicians, SC.
And again, this is the actual subdivision of the property.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Motion is second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Morissette,
Yes.
Alms.
Yes.
DeZiel.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Bruck.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Motion's approved, rules are suspended.
Move to adopt 15-21.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt. Any discussion?
Just a quick numbers thing. We have an ordinance 1521, and is that all right? Is it okay to have the same number? It's
Yep.
resolution 1521? I just want to make sure
Yeah, they're different.
the title's different.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on final development plans for Hudson Physicians SC at 2651 Hillcrest Drive, Hudson Physicians SC.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on final development plans and certificate of compliance for Boucher Apartments at St. Croix County Tax Parcel 236-2041-00-000 Hudson Ventures LLC.
All right, this is another project that's been kind of the topic of a lot of conversation over at least probably 2 to 3 years. This property is on the northwest corner of Hanley Road and Old 35. The initial proposal actually came in with approximately 150 odd apartments, market rate apartments. Per their zoning allowance out there, they're only allowed a density of up to 65 units, which is what this proposal contains. You'll find that it's a 3-story apartment. The 65 units includes some landscaped area. It would actually realign the existing access into the park and ride. So instead of accessing off of Meadowlark, it would access off of a shared access with the park and ride out there, with a dedicated southbound right turn lane into the site. You would see also pending a development agreement, which is another thing that will be coming soon prior to an actual building permit being issued is one of the stipulations in this recommendation. They would come back with a development agreement where we would negotiate the purchase of an additional 2.5 acres of park ground, a little over 2.5 acres, which is on the west side of the property out there. You would see an emergency access off of Meadowlark, would have bollards similar to what you see on Lake's Lee Circle. So it would be a trail for not only the apartment residents, but also the residents of Hudson Meadows to utilize and the community at large. You'd see a trail connection down also crossing over Hanley to connect with the Hanley Trail to send you further west into the city. So again, it's quite a bit. There's been a lot of back and forth on this. There is a development agreement forthcoming. Plan Commission recommends approval as well as staff. Any questions?
So this is for the final development plans
Correct.
and certificate of compliance?
Correct.
And then what were you saying was coming next, sorry?
A development agreement. So we'll have a development agreement that will lay out basically the whether or not there's acquisition of that park property, which the park board recommended that we move forward with that.
Yep.
As well as how we, coordinate that shared access into the park and ride and all those matters. Those things will be hashed out in that agreement.
Okay, and Randy's planning committee like this?
Yeah, they unanimously.
5-0, okay.
And they appreciated the 2.4 acres of parkland. Was it 2.4? They appreciated that, yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Bill, do you have anything from your district on it?
No. I just want a clarification. So there are steps beyond this. What will we see? I guess my question is, will we see a plan for that parkland before we do the final sign-offs from council end? Does that make sense?
How we develop that park?
Yeah, how that's
No,
developed?
so we'll go through that process with Park Board,
Okay.
so we'll update our master parks plan to kind of talk about what amenities, what things we want in there, what trees, how it gets graded.
But you want a
I'll
path
argue-
plan by the builder?
I'll argue for the developer to actually do the initial grading and get it basically prepped for us to be basically flat and ready to go. It's flat already, but you know, some of the tree removal, some of the berming, some of the other things.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure mostly for that neighborhood that's next door to their Hudson
Right.
Meadows, that it's not a kind of a forgotten parkland. you
Right.
know,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Making sure that it's
Yep.
developed.
Well,
as
Park Board liked it because there's
Mhm.
not a lot in that area. So
Right.
we were kind of thinking, let's create something there for those kids in that neighborhood. Yep, families and stuff, yeah. It's not real big, it's 2.5 acres, but you could do something with it, I think, so.
Great.
Move we approve the final development plan, certificate of
Second.
compliance.
Motion is second to approve. Discussion?
I just wanted to say, thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Mike. I know it's been a long road with this particular parcel, so thanks for all your work.
I appreciate it, and I think it's also important to note that the town of Hudson, we've had communication with them, working with them on that agreement for Old 35, just working together to come up with, the best that we could do for not just the city, but also the town, so.
Mike, can I ask a question that I remember from a couple years ago with this?
Maybe.
There was a lot of concern in the neighborhood about, is it Meadowlark Lane, like the traffic and stuff? How did that get worked out, or what happened?
So there'll be no access to Meadowlark. All access comes off of Old 35. The only access you have would be pedestrian access through that 10-foot wide emergency access trail.
Gotcha.
I was going to say with exception to emergency vehicle, right?
Correct. Yep.
You can blow
Okay.
through there.
Okay. And the neighbors are good with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But the park will be accessed through Meadowlark. Is that what?
Or the park and ride.
Oh,
Or
oh,
we
okay.
could, ultimately, we could come up with a plan that cul-de-sac on the end of Meadowlark, which is actually on this property. We might do something else, some other type of facility,
Okay. Is the park and ride still the town of Hudson?
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Yep, and if you remember in that agreement with the town, we talked about the desire of both of our jurisdictions to get that annexed into the city, and we'll work towards that. Yep.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on a certificate of compliance at 200 Ward Avenue, Suite 294, 3D Printing Ally.
All right, so this one would normally be on consent, but the applicant actually had a request after Plan Commission pertaining specifically to the office hours, which is generally, every day, 7 to 5 p.m., but they might have special orders or things that come up after those hours, and they would request that we remove that that stipulation from their approval. You'll see in the application, kind of what they do. 3D printing's an interesting thing. We obviously included some, additional language talking about, standards of decency and things like that, which I think the applicant addressed in his narrative here. But this is really just specific to wanting to, if they have to exceed those, normal operating hours, that they have that availability to do so.
So you're saying you want item 2 removed?
Yes.
Okay, does number 9 include any smell that may come from the
Hold on, give me a minute.
Any what?
smell? I don't know if they'll smell that 3D printing or,
Yeah, you can have polymers. A lot of them do have odors.
Well, I think, and Tom, I don't want to put you on the spot, but common decency and odors and noxious fumes would be something that would be covered under standard nuisance. or-
An odor that's, overly intrusive could be considered a nuisance as well, so that would be something there.
okay.
I had a question, Mike, on 9 as well. Is there a list? What do you mean when you say standards of common decency? Like, is there like a policy or a list or something?
We don't, we just wanted a catch-all, because it's one of those things that it's somewhat new, and the zoning codes traditionally haven't been able to address things like that. How well we're able to enforce that, or was it deemed decent or not, I guess is a policy discussion. If something comes up that we need to address, I certainly think that the council has that authority to do so, and we would do just that.
And legal, how does that sit with you?
Correct, it would be an interpretation on that question. As Mike said, it's something that is being done on the zoning side, so it is enforceable. The common decency argument, and even here, there's interpretations to what that may be, and that would be subject to some interpretation, but it's one of those items that is becoming a bit more prevalent that we've seen.
Is that preferable to leave more vague, or is it preferable to have like some kind of list or policy on that?
Well, certainly, the more specific, the better. However, as Mike said, it's more of a catch-all to sort of encompass those things which may not have come into consideration, because to list everything out, generally speaking, that list then is going to be exhaustive, and anything that you don't include in that list, you're not going to be able to later enforce, and we can't go and add those conditions on later. And so this is just, it's painting with a broader brush.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a little bit of risk to that because it is open to interpretation.
Right.
However, an exhaustive list, there's also a risk to that, because if you don't put something on that list that you later want to enforce, it's not going to be available to you also.
So it might be preferable to leave it vague in some sense.
And actually, I had Attorney Vivian draft that language for that
Okay.
specific
I
item.
appreciate
Yep.
I would move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion second to approve.
I have another question
Are you taking out two?
With removal of 2?
with removal of 2.
Oh, wait, on 2?
That was the hours, that was the,
Hours, yeah.
And Randy, tell me what you don't like the,
Well, those machines need to run 24/7 at certain items or longer, I would assume.
oh, I see what you're saying. So if they get a big job, you're saying they have to keep running it? Okay, yeah, I would accept that friendly amendment.
Okay, I'll change my, I'll second the amended motion. My question is, how noisy are these machines at night? What can the neighbors to the north expect?
the applicant's here tonight.
Should we add a noise
Component to that?
component to it?
I think we could, certainly, again, going to that smell issue, that type of issue, I think if there's,
If there's sufficient complaints from the neighbors about noise or.
and I
odors?
wouldn't even say sufficient, I would say if there's something that, blatantly or obviously violates our standard working hours provisions, and, we have those, we just talked about them, right? If that happens and we have those issues with the neighbors, I think certainly we can bring it back.
I have a question about that complex. How much light industrial do we have going on in that whole complex? This would be the first, right?
That would be the first, yes.
That's a concern of mine would be, this is a lot of.
Type of use?
Yeah, type of use. You have a lot of people needing customers to come there, and if there's some issue, I don't know what that issue is.
Right, and I think you're seeing, and I kind of thought the same thing initially too, but this being kind of a unique, newer
Yeah, no, it's
thing,
great business. Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's an inappropriate use for that space. I mean, if you remember, that was the old hardware store. That's where I bought my Christmas tree every year growing up. But, I certainly think, all indications that we have is that the owner wants to do a responsible job, not be a good neighbor, run a good business. But, he's obviously aware that if we have issues, we're going to bring it back and we're going to have to talk about it. And like Attorney Lunan said, is that, there's only so much that we can put on an exhausted list of, and if you don't list something, then you can't really go back at it.
And you
later
do
on.
still, again, have your nuisance ordinance, with regards to some of these other issues, noise or the list on the conditions, or the list on the conditions, the common decency paints a broader stroke, but then there are other ways aside from just the condition to hold the hold the owner accountable.
Anybody else? All right, we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on a pre-development agreement between the City of Hudson and Lincoln Avenue Capital Management LLC for property located at St. Croix Tax Parcel 020-1087-80-0001.
All right, so this one has been another conversation that's been, ongoing for a couple of months. This property, obviously in your packet you see, is just west of Coach Light and north of Stage Line, south of the interstate. The applicant here, potential applicant, really is desirous of doing an LMI project, which is a low to moderate income housing, Section 42 tax credit housing project, which would be townhomes up to, call it 40-ish units. Again, we haven't gone through zoning review, development plan review, all of those things would be in the future. What this agreement does is requires the applicant to put forward a deposit, which pays for Mr. Lewin's time, Mr. Vivian's time, our engineers. It also, the applicant would also have to pay the town of Hudson's costs, which is unique. And this project, unlike other ones where normally our process would be you annex property first, and then you do a project. This one is what's called an attachment agreement. An attachment agreement is effectively a boundary agreement for this specific property. So we say, we agree with the town of Hudson, we say, we agree that this should be in the city of Hudson. And we both bodies agree to this this attachment agreement, which gives us zoning authority, right? So they effectively give us control of zoning for this property, because their zoning code in the town obviously wouldn't accommodate their project, because they do larger lot type things, and also they don't have water and sewer. So what that would do is they would authorize us to have zoning authority. The applicant would work on getting their project approved. They would apply for these tax credits the end of this year to get a project. Now again, I'm not even going to get into the planning or the development or how well or how poorly the development lays out, because we aren't there yet. We have had conversations again with the town of Hudson, just saying, how are you, how do you feel about this? What is your general impression? Are you okay with this? They said, yeah. At least that was the thought that the town had when we met with the chair and the town attorney. Again, the applicant would pay their legal fees too to review those things. And then we would just go down our normal process at that point. But again, this is a Section 42 LMI project that the applicant is proposing. So, questions? I know it's a lot.
So Mike, just with the process being different, if this is approved tonight, is there any snag you could hit later where, with the town of Hudson or anything?
Oh, absolutely.
That would prevent that from?
Absolutely. Or we could run into an infrastructure utility issue. We could run into, maybe that's not what the city wants there. I mean, this does not bind us to this project.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I think my questions might be early, but let me first say I'm in favor of anything that brings affordable housing to our community or workforce housing. I do have some questions on the organization. I noticed it's a California-based company that's been doing this for 5 years. Mm-hmm. They don't have a lot of history on new buildings. Sure. So I'm just wondering how this California group found us, and bring me up to speed on that, please.
Yeah, I think they're here, so I'll let them speak to that question. I'll get a drink of water.
Hi. So I'm Kevin McDonald. I'm a regional vice president for Lincoln Avenue Capital. So I am based here in Wisconsin. Just started back in November. So I'm new to the organization, but we've been started in 2016, but they're one of the fastest growing affordable housing companies in the country. So, and I've been working in affordable housing in Wisconsin over the last 10 years. I've built 21 developments spread between Wisconsin and Indiana. And so while we don't have a local presence yet, we are working on our first development actually up in the Minocqua area, which will be actually a very similar townhouse style development. So we were awarded tax credits from Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority. So this one will go through the same process. But yeah, actually a number of our employees are from the Twin Cities area. So our head of construction works for a company called Dominium, who has done some projects in Hudson and quite a few in the Twin Cities. Our head of development also worked for Dominium out of the Twin Cities. So we're very excited to work in the city of Hudson and hope to get the opportunity.
So again, let me just say again how badly I want this in our community. Some of the concerns I've heard from other places have to deal with our transportation. Have you looked into that we don't have public transportation, that we're not an overly walkable city?
Yeah, I mean,
With respect
I've done
to-
a number of developments in very rural locations throughout Wisconsin. I mean, usually it is a big benefit to have transportation, but with this site having such strong linkages, I think it's a great location. Obviously, Hudson has great schools, lots of great job opportunities. It's, in my mind, a very ideal location to build what we're proposing here.
Kevin, I also like the idea a lot. Can you just give me a big picture on, it says on Section 42 housing, like, how does that work? I'm not familiar with what Section 42 housing is.
Yeah, so what Section 42 housing basically does is it allows us to promise an affordable rent for the residents. In turn, for us promising an affordable rent, we can obviously take out a smaller first mortgage, but we in turn receive tax credits from the state.
Okay.
And those tax credits are what allow us to build a property that is as nice as a market rate development.
Okay.
You know, not high-end luxury, so we likely won't have very high-end granite countertops and things like that, but they'll have very nice finishes consistent with other market rate developments that you see in the community here.
There's an income limit also.
I think, yeah, so I think the other
Go ahead.
This is your area, but. So, Section 42, their ownership group's locked into 15 years of management of that property. They don't have it, they have to be. The other thing is there's generally a mix. The Maxwell project with the 55 plus senior housing that we have on Maxwell there, that is Section 42. So there's an income mix too. So there's their percentages to low and moderate income folks. There's also mixed in some market rate units in some of those applications, correct?
Yep.
So they'll sprinkle in some market rate. I know in the Maxwell they had a free, or they had not a free, but they had a reduced rate for veterans.
There's a preference. We'll have a 30-day preference for veterans. So we hold the units open for 30 days for veterans on 20% of the units. So we'll have about 8 that'll have a preference for veterans, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move we approve the pre-development plans agreement.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Further discussion?
Who gets it?
I think,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion on comprehensive plan update.
This one's on my phone. Obviously, Councilmember Brock had a question about where we are, and actually it was a timely request. Tomorrow, Plan Commission will be getting an update from Bria Grace and Nate Dave from SEH as to the status of where we're at. We're looking at an August 17th Plan Commission presentation, as well as some late August, early September sit-downs with the Star Observer and other local media outlets to get the word out on these different open houses we're going to have. It's looking like potentially September 21 and 22nd for open house dates. Likely going to have to be at the new fire station because this room will be torn up in September. Let me walk through this a little bit. Obviously, we have to do a Class 2 notice. So what that means is we have to publish twice, and there's additional days that you have to let that age and have people look at it before you actually have the public hearing. The Plan Commission will probably look at September 28th or 29th to do the final review and then send the recommendation to the council. We're looking at October 18th as a potential date for the council here to host their public hearing and look at the ordinance adopting the plan itself, or doing some additional revisions and then postponing actual action on it. So we're looking, those open houses, we're looking at the hours of between 4 and 6, consisting of 15-minute opening presentation along with stations and posters being set up around the room for the public to come in and take a look at everything. It'll be on the website. We have a survey also that's gonna be posted for people to look at it and submit their comments on it. It's been a difficult year to do a comp plan, but we're wrapping it up, and I'm proud of the work that especially Tiffany's done on this. She's done a really good job working with Bria and SEH's team on bringing this thing forward. So I think the council will be very happy with the document that comes out. So that's kind of the update.
Thank you. That's super helpful, and I know that our community members will appreciate that update as well.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else? All right. Discussion on COVID plan for city operations.
This is something I asked to be brought forward, given in light of what our St. Croix County Public Health Office has shared. They have extended their mask advisory until October 5th. At the present moment, St. Croix County is at high risk, and so they are asking whether you are fully vaccinated or not vaccinated in indoor settings to wear masks. In addition, there's 2 other spots I'd like to just point out. The Constitution of the State of Wisconsin has given the City of Hudson the responsibility to manage in a manner that provides for the health and safety and welfare of the public. And then on a city level, we have our Code of Ethics, and on there, it notes that the Common Council role is to serve as agents of public purpose and hold office for the benefit of the public. Based on those 3 different sources, I would like at our next meeting to have discussion and take possible action on requiring masks in our city-owned buildings for both employees and for visitors. That is why I asked for this to be on the agenda tonight.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Anybody?
I appreciate you bringing it up, Sarah. Just a public plea for, if you have not been vaccinated, please get vaccinated. I know there's a lot of hot feelings on that topic, but the solution for COVID is out there, is available, and if we work together, we're going to whip this virus. My only question, Sarah, would be, and I think it makes sense, the question for you is, would the mask policy for the city buildings be done in conjunction with the county ratings? In other words, if the COVID levels fall, right, and it goes from substantial to a lower level or something, are you thinking that the city would just kind of use the county as a barometer, whether we're masking or not? So in other words, it wouldn't be like a permanent thing, right, or long, it would be sort of like relative to the rates? Is that what I'm hearing, or?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. Right now, it is effective until October 5th. That is certainly subject to change, okay, and that we would honor what our Public Health Office has asked.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Anybody else?
Hate to put you on the spot, but any thoughts, Aaron, just about this discussion overall?
Yep. So, obviously when this all started, we implemented the mask requirements for staff in City Hall and for visitors. So at this point, we haven't done anything, mostly because we have very limited staff in City Hall right now. We've obviously left it up to staff members if they would feel comfortable, more comfortable wearing masks and things like that. But, at this point, we have really just a skeleton crew daily in City Hall with the renovation project going on. And we don't expect to be having everyone back until probably hopefully mid-September when the project's over. But it probably will be at least until that time that we have everybody kind of back in the office. So at this point, we had looked at it as we have a limited number in there. We'll leave it up to individual staff members if they want to do it or not. But I do understand the statement about the county public health recommendation and things like that. In the past, I don't think we had really much pushback from citizens that would come into City Hall. At that time, I think it was obviously fairly accepted to mask up. So I don't know, how the reaction would be to people coming in if we start requiring it again at all. Obviously, we all know that there's high tensions around most anything involved with this issue, and I don't want our staff to have to I guess police visitors too much, but at the same time, I recognize that this is an obvious issue that we're dealing with. So I guess what I would say is we haven't implemented anything on our end at this point, mostly because we just don't have very many people in City Hall at one time at this time. But I think the timing is right for the council to have this discussion at the next meeting, because we'll be getting close to hopefully wrapping the project up and resuming back to normal, finally 5-day-a-week operations with everybody in the office. So at that point, it would be a good time to have that conversation if you want to require it within city facilities or not. I should note though that, if the library makes a decision that they want to do that, they may do that. I mean, that's going to be a decision up to their director and their board, if they're going to want to do that or not. But it's possible that could occur, at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, discussion of possible action on change of mayor term to 3 years.
Yep, so I'd ask that this be put on the agenda, and what you got in the packet is more sort of legal feedback on the how, right? But I wanted to explain the why first, and then I forget your name, the attorney, sir.
Tom Lunan.
What is it?
Tom Lunan. Attorney Lunan, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
No problem.
Maybe Tom can clarify some of that. So what I was thinking is this, and this is kind of the background, is I'd be curious in moving, in changing the mayoral term for Hudson from 2 years to 3 years. And the two big reasons why, one is I think it just would provide more stability for local government. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm just kind of thinking of the framers here, so bear with me for a second. You got the U.S. House 2 years, right? You got the president 4 years. You've got the Senate 6 years. So the framers kind of wanted a sensitivity to the will of the people, democracy, which is why we're all sitting around the table, right? It's always we want to represent the people. But at the same time, the framers were about, we want to make sure that there's some stability. And so I just think that staggering the 2 year and the 3 year would be good for just stable local government. So I think the role of the mayor is a big role. I think it's probably hard to learn, as Rich has grown into it for many years. So I think once you do elect a mayor, I think why not just add that extra year just to be more stable? So that's the first argument or rationale. The second is, as I've thought about it over the years, I think right now the way it works is that every 2 years when the mayor's term's up, half of the council terms are up. So the mayor's term coincides with the representatives from districts 2, 3, and 4, but not with 5, 6, and 1. And so what I like about this idea is that if you extend the mayor's to 3 year, it would sort of rotate so that any of the 6 representatives who may be interested in running for mayor, and I'm not saying I am, but because my wife would never allow it. But what I'm saying is that I think there's a fundamental fairness issue or equity issue. So I like the idea that a 3 year term would give anybody who is a present alderperson a chance to run without having to file to kind of not have their own seat. In other words, there's a safety right now if you run from 5, 6, or 1. So I just like that idea. I think it would give the citizens of Hudson more choice in the long-range future. I think it's just a better approach to stabilizing it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, but obviously it's up to you to kind of see what you're thinking. And again, legal has done a lot more work on sort of the how. So.
Right, and certainly just to speak to the how, we had looked into just, first of all, whether or not this is something that is possible both under current statute and obviously current ordinance. And as laid out in the packet, what we had discovered is Wisconsin statute does specify that a mayoral term is for 2 years for cities such as Hudson. However, it clearly states that unless otherwise decided by the elected body. So while the 2 year term is the norm, it can be changed by the city council. As noted in here, for the city council to make that change, we would have to go through a process of doing a charter amendment because the charter does currently specify the 2-year terms for mayor. And so that would go through the process of updating the charter if the council desired to make that change and extend the mayoral term to 3 years. And we can work through that process if that's something that the council wants to move forward with here. And I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have. But ultimately, the takeaway today, for discussion purposes, is the council does have the authority to make this change if it wishes to do so.
I have a question. I believe that state law allows a council member to run for mayor and for their council seat at the same time. Is that correct? And is there anything in our city ordinance that does not allow that to happen?
I would have to review that specifically.
Okay.
I think pursuant to Wisconsin statute, I think you're technically correct that you can ballot for lower office. Whether or not there's any restriction in the city code, I would have to look at that, and we can certainly get back to you on that, but
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Sarah?
Is the charter code, can we find that on the website? I know I'd asked Becky about that, and you had thought we didn't have one, so.
Yeah, we checked, Aaron and I checked with legal, and they said the charter wasn't, it was our ordinances from back.
There is no such thing as
So
a
it's
city
a-
charter anymore. Back in, whenever it was, the state basically got rid of all city charters, I think except for Milwaukee maybe, and they converted them over to basically the state statutes in relation to most items as far as city governance. So our code of ordinances is basically what our charter is at this point.
Correct. Yeah, it was Hudson's a charter city, but in 1977, all of the charter cities were updated so that it wasn't like you had to maintain the charter. It's your ordinances, and so yes, the update would be to the ordinance through a 2/3 vote of the elected body.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Anybody else?
I guess, we know of cities in Wisconsin or Minnesota perhaps that have that situation? What's the experience out there?
So I've run into and worked with a couple of cities that have gone through the process of extending the mayoral term, and it was for the reasons that were stated. The one overarching that I had heard was because of just you need more than 2 years to kind of get your feet underneath you, and it can happen quick. And then the issue regarding running that's a consideration as well. One of the things to take into consideration if this is what the council is going to do is how it would be effective. And what I've seen from different cities is they would elongate the term potential effective pursuant to the next election that would occur, so that you're not extending any current elected official terms. That's, I know, been issues with other cities as they've looked at extending a term of an official. It sometimes is preferable to say, well, let's extend the term at the start of the next election. It's not something that would have to be done, but I know that when we've looked at these before, that's been a cause of consternation amongst the people with regards to these changes. But as far as if this is something that's happening, yes, we've seen it happening. Particularly, I do more of my work in Minnesota, and many of the cities that I've worked with now, I think all of them, all three of the cities that I primarily represent are all on 3 or 4 year mayoral runs.
What size of cities are those? Are they?
They're smaller than Hudson. The city of Wyoming, we're in the city of Bayport, but then Mendota. So they're between 1,000 to I think 12,000 is my largest city.
Then I am aware of larger cities in Minnesota that also have longer terms than 2 years for their mayors. Many of the bigger ones that have 4 year terms. So it just It does kind of depend. You know, Minnesota, you've got your statutory cities, but you also have you have charter cities that are still allowed. And so there are a number of cities across the state of Minnesota that have charters that call for different terms of the mayor than 2 years.
And if this helps anybody, I'm not really looking for a vote tonight, to be honest with you. I just kind of want to float it out there, and I want you guys to kind of think about it and revisit it. I think we have time to work with this before, you know, if we wanted to make the move in April of, 2022. So I'm not really looking for a vote. I just really want to have your discussion and feedback and kind of just get you thinking about it. So it's it's a big step for the city, so I want you to think it through, so.
I wouldn't mind asking our current mayor, I mean, what do you think about, just from the seat alone, not for future, but just from your experience, seeing what you see in your role?
Well,
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
no, I guess, to address both of the arguments that Paul has brought up, and I don't want this to sound self-serving, and I don't know about having this for the next election, but I think given the magnitude of the job, it probably makes sense to extend the term. The 3-year term I find intriguing because clearly it is a fairness issue. As you stated, Paul, there are 3 council seats that every single election cycle can run for mayor without giving up their seat or without having to run for 2 seats at the same time. I don't think an electorate in a specific district is going to be too happy about a council member running for both seats. So, but let's just put it into perspective. The 3 seats that could have run without giving up their seat in the last 3 elections have all done that. So in 2016, it was District 1. In 2018, it was District 5. And in 2020, it was District 6. In those 3 elections, none of the other council members gave up their seat in order to run. And I think it clearly is a fairness issue to give every council member on every other cycle an opportunity to run for mayor without giving up their seat. So.
But from the experience and being in that chair, I mean, being able to do something over the course of 3 years versus 2?
Well, I think it does provide an opportunity to get things done a little bit more. You know what? I mean, every council member that's here knows that it is a learning curve. The more you learn, the tougher your job gets. Well, that's true, right? And so I think that to give the mayor, of course, the mayor is the only one that is elected citywide, and would have to run citywide every 2 years. Every council member only has to campaign in a district 1/6 the size of the mayor's citywide seat, and makes it easier to campaign, easier just in general, I think, to do your job. So I grew up in St. Paul. It was 4-year terms, and I thought that made a lot of sense. So if you tried a 4-year term, you still have the same issue that you brought up as issue number 2. Mm-hmm. So I think 3 years makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. And I could weigh in too. I know I couldn't tell if it was Sarah or Joyce had asked the question about even you technically can run for both offices, and in state statutes you can. And I don't believe our ordinance mentions anything about you can't be on the ballot for 2 things at once. So while that's a correct statement, I see concerns with that from my point about trying to run for 2 offices at once. I'm not, it seems like that not only would that be a difficult task to do, to be trying to run for your council district seat and then mayor as well. But then on the other side too, is that if you get elected to both, we then have to have another round of special election to fill the council seat if that's the case. I think, well, technically, yes, that's allowed, and I'll have the city attorney review our ordinances to make sure I'm not missing something on the city side. I see some still some concerns with that and some issues about how that would be feasible though, to really do. And I guess I've not heard of that happening in other places where somebody runs for both. I mean, I'm sure it obviously has, but it's not something I think you commonly hear about occurring, just because I think there are a number of issues with that.
So, and I want to make this clear, because I know what's going to happen tonight, is social media is going to blow up that the mayor is looking to run for a 3-year term instead of a 2-year term. I'm not advocating for this at all. This is not my idea. I'm not the one bringing this forward, but now that it has been. So keep an eye on that, everybody, when you see what happens with social media tonight. It's probably going on right now, in fact.
Well,
But, I'm sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
Mayor O'Connor, I'm just thinking if, let's just say this goes forward and it goes to vote, and let's just say there's a tie, I'm just guessing that that's something you would abstain from voting and.
It's a
It would require 2/3 vote.
It's
Okay.
2/3 vote.
Okay,
He doesn't get a say in it, no
Okay.
matter what.
that was a good
Boy,
protection
oh
for
boy, I
you.
hadn't thought that far down the line, Sarah, but thank you for that.
And again, it's a systematic change. What I'm thinking about is systematic government, and so I don't want to vote. I just wanted to have this discussion to get you guys thinking, and I think some point in the future we can come back to this. So I don't think we have to make a decision tonight, or I don't want to make a decision tonight. Just to kind of let it ruminate, talk to constituents, see what social media says. See what people are thinking. So, but I appreciate the discussion tonight. So
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from people and find out what other people think about it. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm recommending that somebody run for both offices. That certainly isn't my intention. I just wanted that point clarified.
All right, anybody else? Okay, we'll carry that on to a future agenda. Before we move into closed session tonight, Tim Zeiss is here from North Hudson, and he has a few comments. He's representing North Hudson. He wants to make a few comments before we go in to talk about the contract with North Hudson on water.
Thank you, Mayor and
Tim,
City
welcome.
Council members.
Yeah.
Tim Zeiss, 69 Cherry Circle North, and also Hudson Village of North Hudson trustee, please. And my comment is basically about the agreement that you guys are going to be going into closed session and talking about. This is discussion behind this agreement has been going on for 5 years, and unfortunately, we've got to this point, which is healthy, I think, to get to this point we're at now. There's been some expense both on the ratepayers and on our village taxpayers, but I think you should take that in consideration when we get to this point in your closed discussions. But also, I think just part of this agreement, there's some good things behind it. We both have done some give and take behind it, but the key is the communication. It's establishing a regular communication between the village and Hudson. I think that's healthy. You heard that from Mike when he talked about his communication work. He worked with the town of Hudson, so I think this is key in this agreement. And again, 5 years is a long time to be discussing this, and it's an important discussion. We all know that, but just take that in consideration. And I just thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak upon that, and I hope it goes well for all of us. So thank
All
you.
right, Tim, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Convened into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub E, to deliberate or negotiate the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session with respect to North Hudson Water Service Agreement updates.
move to go into closed session.
Second.
Got a motion second to go into closed session. Roll call.
Morissette,
Yes.
Alms.
Yes.
DeZiel,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion's approved to go into closed session. Yep. All right, we are back in open session.
I would like to make a motion to approve the water service agreement with the Village of North Hudson.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Who was that?
Yeah.
Motion's approved.
Move.
I don't have anything. Anybody?
Move
I'll
to,
make the motion to make sure that all of the council and the PUC and the
Okay.
village board are.
We'll have to put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
We'll get that on the agenda. Okay?
He moved to adjourn.
I second it.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.